Hey there, I'm Mark, in affiliation with Spectrum Pulse, and what do you know, cool down week. Shame it's not better, and it's Billboard BREAKDOwn. I don't remember. You know, should have seen this coming. I knew that Morgan Wallen was going to have a sweeping impact in the Hot 100, blowing away a bunch of old songs, but I also made the assumption that once he was gone, we'd have a flood of new, potentially interesting and better material coming in, and boy was I wrong. Not only do we have as many returns as we got new songs, the larger issue is that there's just not much competition going right now getting pushed to the Hot 100, so Morgan Wallen's just squatting there. I'm sure that at this point the fandom's large enough to keep this from falling off that much post-album bomb, but it is a systemic issue if the music industry isn't even gonna try to compete here. This feels embarrassing. And you know what, speaking of embarrassments, our top 10, where, as I predicted, Ordinary by Alex Warren went to number 1. Now, truth be told, I'm not actually that down on the song. I don't think it's particularly good in comparison with some other Alex Warren songs, but it's fine, I guess. But after getting told for months that nobody wants this style of music to come back, this is likely set up to sit on the top of the charts for months until we get a major drop. All the factors are in play on all channels. And yet there is competition from Morgan Wallen here, so let's talk about what Ordinary only narrowly beat out. What I Want featuring Tate McRae at number 2, which handily won on streaming, and it's got some sales, but they're gonna need to push it a hell of a lot harder to make up any radio gap. Compare this to the next two Morgan Wallen songs, Just in Case at number 3, which is still on the upswing on the radio, and I'm the Problem at number 4, where the streams are there and might support the radio, now seeming to get sick of this. Good. Then we got Luther by Kendrick Lamar and SZA at number 5, and what makes me chuckle is that even as the radio is aggressively dumping this, the streaming position went right back up. I don't think this is going anywhere. Same case for Shaboozey with the bar song Tipsy, which actually gained a spot to number 6 because radio programmers got kind of skittish at dropping one of the better fun cross-genre radio singles that they've had in recent memory. It actually overtook Die With A Smile by Lady Gaga and Bruno Mars, now down at number 7. The streaming position recovery wasn't exactly great, and the radio is getting rid of it. It's not surprising it's falling back. So naturally, we got Lose Control by Teddy Swims back in the top 10 at number 8, because even as the radio is trying to get rid of this, the streaming went right back up. I would say this opens a door for Nokia by Drake to make another run as well at number 9, but he actually saw a lesser streaming recovery than Lose Control, and the radio was somehow even more done with him. Unfortunately, they're not quite done yet with Benson Boone, where Beautiful Things is back at number 10 on a streaming recovery, even as the radio is trying to dump this song. Just not quickly enough, because we're not going to be that lucky. Speaking of which, our losers and dropouts, where before I just rattle off a long list of Morgan Wallen songs, there were a couple notable exits that will make the year-end list for 2025. Specifically, well, okay, Smile by Morgan Wallen just not having enough to stick above the top 50, along with two Bad Bunny tracks, DTMF and Ballet Inévitable. Why Billboard actually chose to follow their recurrency rules here in comparison with other places, we'll get onto that later. But now onto the list of losers. They're all Morgan Wallen songs. From the top down, Superman at 20, Eyes Are Closed at 45, TN at 48, Kick Myself at 50, I'm a Little Crazy at 51, Where'd That Girl Go at 53, Skull, Chevy and Browning at 54, Falling Apart at 55, Kiss Her in Front of You at 57, and If You Were Mine at 58. Then we got Missing at 67, Don't We at 68, Genesis at 71, Jack and Jill at 72, Miami at 78, Revelation at 80, and the interlude track at 84. Yes, Morgan Wallen is apparently so dominant he's got a song called Interlude be one of the biggest in the United States. Implications might be obvious. Finally, number 3 and number 7 with Eric Church at 85, Leavin's The Least I Can Do at 89, Come Back as a Redneck with Hardy at 90, The Dealer with Ernest at 93, Drink Until It Does at 94, and LA Night at 99. So okay, What's gonna replace all this? Well, in our returns at least, it's kind of a mixed bag, to be honest. I like that The Largest by Big X The Plug is just never going away at 96, but the rest are Fix What You Didn't Break by Nate Smith at 92, Busy Woman by Sabrina Carpenter at 97, and Feel It by David at 100. That is not impressive. And yet, while we have gains, unsurprisingly for 2025, there's not as many as you would expect, and even fewer that are worth endorsing. So let me start with two that should not be here at all. Yes, Indigo by Sam Barber and Avery Anna's at 66, and Peekaboo by Kendrick Lamar and AZ Chike at 70. They picked up gains. Just to cover my bases, Squabble Up also went up to 43. But those other two songs, not enough to be in the top 50. They should be in recurrency at this point. If Billboard can't even stick to their own most obvious rules, it gives grifting morons who don't understand the charts like DJ Academic space to question your validity. Or do we have to run through the debacle of the statement you put out in 2020 when 6ix9ine exposed you? Come on! Anyway, the only gain from a new arrival from last week came to Shake It to the Max, Fly by Molly, Silent Natty, Skillabang, and Shensia at 65. I would not be surprised if this became a club hit, at least for this summer. They need the upbeat stuff. And then we got the songs that didn't lose last week trying to capitalize on newfound position, like Sports Car by Tate McRae surging to 25, Weren't for the Win by Ella Langley at 34, and Whiskey Drink by Jason Aldean at 77. Might as well run through the few other country songs that are backed by Nashville radio and picked up gains. Am I Okay by Megan Maroney at 40, Backup Plan by Bailey Zimmerman and Luke Combs at 52, Happened to Me by Russell Dickerson at 59, After All the Bars Are Closed by Thomas Rhett at 64, and I guess we could include Good News by Shabuzi at 46 here as well. I'm happy that it became a minor hit at least. It's gonna make the year-end list. That's kind of cool. Then, I guess the rest. From Somber, we got Undressed at 29 and Back to Friends at 36, Love Me Not by Raven Lene at 37, Abracadabra by Lady Gaga at 41, Mystical Magical by Benson Boone at 42, Wildflower by Billie Eilish at 44, Cry For Me by The Weeknd at 47, and Dark Thoughts by Lil Tecca at 56. Finally, finish this off. Party For You by Charlie XCX is holding at 60, Azem by Ed Sheeran recovered to 61, Somebody Loves Me by Drake and Party Next Door at 63, Marlboro Rojo by Fuerza Regida at 73, they also got Me Hollow with Grupo Frontera at 79, and Wim Whamly by Pluto and YK Nice holding on 75. Now for our list of new arrivals. There's only 4 of them. I'm certainly not going to complain given my current backlog on my main channel. Let's get this started with number 88, Somewhere Over Laredo by Lainey Wilson.
Dreaming about those rodeo nights, laid there on the banks of the Rio, new silver buckle on your jeans next to mine.
I think my usual gauge of quality with Lainey Wilson these days is whether she can get a good enough song around Jay Joyce's production. And on her album from last year, well, she got there more often than not. I wouldn't have minded some of those songs getting pushed as singles rather than from another deluxe edition single, because apparently someone at Broken Bow wants to milk a little bit more publicity for her. Not surprising. But you know, that's not entirely on her, and I've seen a decent amount of buzz that this song could be a really strong one. Not just with commercial pedigree, but some level of critical acclaim as well. And I gotta be honest, when I heard that slight interpolation of Judy Garland's Somewhere Over the Rainbow with those few notes opening up the hook, I'll admit I rolled my eyes, especially when the song didn't really do anything more with that interpolation, and it put me in the mind of a much better song. Not saying it's bad, the piano balances out well with the reverbed, aching fiddle and the guitar, and Lainey Wilson does a fine enough job selling the sadness of the road when she'd rather be with her partner down on the ground, which is where I get to mention that partner is still Duck Hodges, meme backup quarterback from the Pittsburgh Steelers from the 2019 season. But I don't know, I feel like Lainey Wilson's tone is a little rusty and sharp to hit that high note on the hook. It's missing a certain sweetness to stick the landing with this interpolation. Again, it is decent, I get why folks like this, but given how many times I've seen some other acts in country get ripped for interpolations that are just as obvious and questionably executed as this, I'm not really gonna give it a pass. All I'm saying? Number 74, Latina Foreva by Karol G. I'm more surprised than I should be when a new Karol G album cycle is kicking into gear. She runs up the numbers, this is probably gonna get an album bomb and it'll be pretty good for it, so I think some expectations are kind of fair going in, and thus I'm of a few minds. On the one hand, the stock reggaeton beat is mixed so loud and close that I feel like I could hear it literally clipping the front of the mix, and that's kind of a shame because the plucky guitars and the dramatic strings that are lurking amidst the reverb, they had some melodic flavor I wanted to hear complement Karol G's tightly multi-track delivery. There was potential there. And for the content, well, for as much as Karol G has coyly flirted with queerness, this is a pretty damn horny song when translated, entirely about celebrating the bodies of women in the most brazen way imaginable, including her own. I refuse to engage in some truly stupid queer-baiting discourse, especially given that Karol G's already gone through that, and it's nobody's business what or who she likes. But also because this feels designed to provoke the worst people imaginable. In certain spaces, I can imagine playing this might be a risk, or performing it. I just wish the mixing was a little better so I could like it more. It's obviously not for me, but in the execution, you know, it does sound a little by the numbers, especially with the percussion. It doesn't make the most of its assets. Pun only partially intended. Number 62, Cliche by Machine Gun Kelly.
I got a lot of right in me, but I don't wanna say this wrong. Tell me, would you stay with me? Maybe we could make this home. You should run away with me, even if you're better off alone.
Okay, you know what? Some of this is your fault. You only let MGK get the one hit off of Tickets to My Downfall, which again, it was a great album. Bloody Valentine, Forget Me Too with Halsey, they were right there. So instead of a kick-ass pop rock revival, we get this dreck that the kid Leroy probably would have turned down. What's truly strange about this, beyond a god-awful music video, who talked this guy into thinking he should be a pop star, is that you can acutely hear every part of him straining to be rougher and more interesting. Not exactly better, but bring back trace of that intensity that made his rock elements somewhat compelling. But that's warring with the complete non-effort everywhere else. Besides the lovelorn lyrics that absolutely live up to the title, where the self-awareness becomes rancid because there's no humor or deconstruction to underscore said cliches, if he barely sounds like he cares, why should I? The most I can give it is that the hook is halfway catchy and there's some percussive bounce around the reverbed echo of the guitars. MGK has a better sense of momentum and groove than I think he'll ever get credit. But the more I found myself trying to enjoy all the choppy acoustics to build up that momentum or climax, he'll moan through the auto-tune, and I'll remind myself this feels like the bastard offspring of Juice WRLD and Shawn Mendes. But let's be real. Since Bad Boy Records is in the midst of imploding, courtesy of, well, everything Diddy related, it's probably left MGK in the lurch career-wise, and I'm not sure he's got the management or backing on Interscope at the moment to push anything beyond the safest and blandest songs imaginable. It'll probably wind up a radio hit because 2025 is in desperate need of any sort of momentum or something fun for the summer, but God, it's sad. And pretty far from good. And finally, number 32, Bloodline by Alex Warren and Jelly Roll.
Oh, we got each other, and if you got tomorrow, then you still got time.
And this is only a matter of time. Jelly Roll needs a way to maintain relevance between album cycles. He'll do guest appearances for damn near anyone. And why would Alex Warren on the come-up turn it down? And, well, apparently this is the year where Jelly Roll is going to keep making me eat my words, because I really liked Amen with Shabuzi, and yeah, I really like this too. Although I think it's substantially less excusable for me as a critic. Back to what I said about Ordinary. For as much as some people supposedly hated this style of millennial music and pointed a lot of fingers at Imagine Dragons, I get the feeling that a lot of that came from them being a silent majority act and easy punchline because the radio overplayed them to hell and back. Not that the sound or style itself was inherently bad or didn't have potential. I mean, Beyonce made a stomp clap folk music a a #1 last year, and y'all definitely weren't complaining about that. And I also hear roots of Dan Reynolds in this from both singers, who actually have better interplay and harmonies than I was expecting. But along with the fast-picked, galloping acoustic patter, the millennial whoops, I also hear some of the folktronica touches that Avicii pushed, especially when the hand claps ramp up. The children apparently yearn for the millennial chord that inspires some vestige of hope in dark times. But the song is well structured, it's got a great hook, and lyrically I like the angle. Trying to push back from generational neglect and abuse, the fear that comes with running away but also potentially not escaping your demons, that the family legacy becomes a part of you, and I like that both guys are more side characters in this story, trying to help inspire the audience to get away from some toxic older influences, beat back their inner demons. Couple that with one hell of a hook? Yeah, you know what? If this doesn't become a hit, I'm gonna be shocked, because it might be the best thing that both of them have done in a long time. You know what? Yeah, it's great. Absolutely recommended. And in this short week, it's very easily running away with the top spot. No contest. And worst of the week, Cliche by Machine Gun Kelly. Yeah, it's obvious, kind of shockingly so. Next week, I gotta be honest, I'm not sure. Maybe Miley Cyrus might see some traction for Something's Beautiful, even if I don't think she's about to get an album bomb like Endless Summer Vacation. We'll have to see, given whatever competition might be here or not be here. But until then, I'm Mark, you're watching Billboard Breakdown, affiliated with Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.